at the Foundations of Reading test. And so what we're hoping is the 15 CEUs that you have that go towards reading, we can increase those if you fail the reading test a certain number of times. And we're working out the mechanism here. We don't know yet. But we're hoping that we can find a way to get those in the field to be able to pass that test without doing something punitive, so that we can help those students who are in the classroom. Because that's the reason why we have those teachers coming out of these schools passing the test. We also want to increase the number of times a year the children are assessed. We believe that this will give us a better ability to figure out where children are. I want to step away from what's on my paper for a second to go back to early childhood. So I think all of us in here that deal with children know that there is a gap that exists going into school, a gap of on the order of thousands of words. I believe that if we don't do something like have a high quality early childhood program, we're going to have a hard time closing that gap. And I recognize that there are many of us in the legislature, in the community that are concerned, and all branches of government that really care. But promises about that don't do enough, because legislatures change, governors change, activists change. We need it to be something where you can't get away from your commitment to early childhood. That, I believe, is critical. And I think I will stop there.
Thank you for that passion and for the broad vision and detail. Dr. Geertsma.
Representative Holder-Winfield, thank you very, very much for bringing up at the end of your discussion this issue of the effect of early childhood on readiness of children for success with school and into the future. I don't think that there's any doubt, and I know that Janice Grandel can talk about this much more eloquently than I can, but I don't think there's any doubt that this is a question of multiple effects and interaction of areas that have often been thought of as separate disciplines. And this is an area we can really do something together, and not necessarily with huge increased costs. There is a national effort afoot, there has been for many, many years, to introduce reading at a staged level starting at as early as 6 months to infants and their parents. And this is called Reach Out and Read. There were two sort of pioneer practices. I'm very proud to say ours was one of them in the state of Connecticut to start this, except we do not know how many physicians, pediatricians, family doctors participate in this. We also know from recent research that simply giving books out to children, as many practices may do, is not enough. That in fact the process of learning to read is both a social process and an intellectual process. And to explain that to parents can captivate them if you do it the right way. And it doesn't take, for instance, a higher degree for the parents to be able to understand this. This is an emotive issue that is central to all parents, the process of doing what is right for one's child. And one can captivate children if one can spend the time and knows the expertise in doing this. I find it fascinating that not only is this evidence-based and shows significant improvements in children when they enter preschool and school, but in addition, it has great relevance for the area of overuse and oversaturation of media and the effect that that plays on, in a sense, derailing some of the normal aspects of human communication that occur both socially and through reading to children up through the age of 3. If we tie that, interestingly, to the data on overuse of media, inappropriate use of media, and its role in obesity, we have yet an even greater sphere of influence. So I really would welcome, and I know the American Academy of Pediatrics, with limited resources in Connecticut, has been trying to promote this further, but this is an area that I think we can all work on together. I know Janice agrees.
So just this past week, there was a training at the Norwalk Children's Museum on literacy and early childhood, fitting in with what Representative Holder-Winfield's talking about. And so many people applied to come to the training that they had to close it. There were hundreds who tried to get in. And what the participants said was that they don't know how to do any of this. So it's back to this systemic effort that we have to take of both a K-3 strategy on reading, a higher ed strategy, but also an early childhood and infant toddler strategy. We are claiming we're doing things, but perhaps not as well as we might wish. And the infant toddler piece, particularly with the focus on home visitation and all the early opportunities, we could create a clothesline and an overarching focus on this using science, but we're not. So I'm hoping that it's something that we would take up this year. Just this week, I had the opportunity to watch a film of a baby with the equivalent of a little bike helmet on. But it wasn't a bike helmet. It was actually little things, wiring, so you could see the baby's brain. And it was showing how children learn to read. And the baby could move around, so nobody needs to worry. The baby could, move its arms and legs and was having a fine time. But sound came from a radio, and the brain was blank. Sound came from a TV, and the brain was blank. You could actually see it in this little snippet. I'll bring it to a commission meeting because it was so remarkable. And then there was a parent who talked to the baby, same exact sound as what came from the radio and what came from the TV, where the brain was blank, and the whole brain was wired up. It was like Christmas. And the baby started smiling, and the baby repeated back the sound. So the technology was empty, literally empty. And the role of the parent in those first steps of language and sound is unknown. I mean, so we're starting to show this particular film to parents. Because when they see how important they are, that science, we're hoping it's going to influence things. But all these pieces need to be combined. Are there any questions, any additional questions for Representative Holder-Winfield? Yes, Sylvia.
Representative, how about those parents who cannot read? Can you identify some source or resource that will be used to teach them to read?
So I'm not the best person to talk about that, but I think that's part of the reason. I think that's part of the reason why having a highly effective program is important. I think there's a combination of things. There are parents who can't read, and there are programs that are attempting to do the work with parents. One of the parts of our assessment tool is not to teach parents to read, but to help parents understand the importance. And even if the parent can't read, a parent can talk to the child, which appropriates the same thing. It's that communication between the parent and the child. And so if the parent can't read, while we may not be able to put the resources there to help the parent read to the child, the parent can read to the child without actually reading to the child.
Dr. Grossman.
Thank you.